Imagine waking up inside a body that can't move at all. You can't walk. You can't speak. Your entire world shrinks down to the movement of just one single finger. If that were you, would you give up? Most people would say yes. Because at this point, the line between perseverance and despair becomes painfully thin. But history is not written by those who surrender easily. This man used that one remaining finger to direct the construction of one of America's greatest symbols. Standing at the very edge of fate, he proved something unforgettable and unbreakable can still change the world. So if today you're feeling exhausted, if you believe you've reached a dead end, this is your sign. Don't quit yet, because this unbelievable story is about to completely change how you see the limits of your own potential. In the late 19th century, when New York was still divided by a wide and unforgiving river, most people believed there were limits. Humans were never meant to cross. But John Roebling didn't see it that way. He was an engineer, a man who could see possibility where others saw only restriction. Inside his mind, a bold idea began to take shape. To build a bridge that had never existed before. One that would connect New York to Long Island. A structure with no real precedent in its time. When Roebling shared his vision, he wasn't met with encouragement. He received shaking heads, mocking smiles, and cold judgment from some of the world's leading experts. They said it was impossible, too dangerous, too ambitious, and most importantly, no one had ever done it before. But to Roebling, the fact that no one had ever done it wasn't a reason to quit. It was the reason to begin. Because he believed that a true legacy is not built by following paths already laid out, but by daring to step where no one else has ever walked. John Roebling understood that a great dream could never be carried by one person alone. If this bridge was ever going to be built, it would require more than blueprints and calculations. It needed someone to inherit the belief behind it. He turned to his son, Washington Roebling, a young engineer without reputation, without experience in monumental projects, but with something more valuable than all of that: the ability to believe. There were long conversations late into the night. Blueprints spread across the table. Questions were asked again and again, and doubts appeared that could not be avoided. But the more they discussed, the more Washington began to see what his father had seen from the very beginning. Not just a bridge, but a symbol of the future. In the end, Washington nodded, not because every risk had been removed, but because he understood that some journeys do not begin with certainty, but with courage. Father and son went to work together. They refined the early concepts, pushed beyond the technical limits of their time, and built their own team. Even as the press continued to publish headlines filled with doubt, in the eyes of the world, they were stubborn dreamers. But within them, a legacy had already begun to take shape. The project began with great hope. The first foundations were laid, and the dream started to take the shape of something real. But then, tragedy struck without warning. In a serious accident, John Roebling passed away. The man who carried the original vision was no longer there to see his dream continue. Washington Roebling stepped forward to take on the responsibility. But fate was not finished with him. Not long after, he was severely injured, suffering damage to his brain, leaving him unable to walk, unable to speak, and almost completely cut off from the outside world. The news spread quickly. The doubts returned, this time without restraint. People said the project should be abandoned, that everything had gone too far, that this dream, from the very beginning, had been a mistake. At that moment, every reason to give up was already there. Washington Roebling lay motionless in a hospital bed, cut off from the project he had poured all his belief into pursuing. His world shrank to 4 white walls, where each day passed no different from the one before. He could not speak. He could not walk. He could no longer stand before his team as he once had. In the eyes of many, this was an unavoidable ending. But Washington's mind was still there. And so was his belief. In rare moments, when sunlight slipped through the window, when the curtains gently moved with the breeze, he saw blue skies and distant lines of trees. It wasn't just a view. It was a reminder that the world was still moving forward, and that his dream had not disappeared. Then, a thought emerged. If he could not do everything, he would do the one thing he still could. Washington realized that he could still move one finger. From that moment on, a new method of communication was born. Through his wife, who never left his side. Each small signal, each gentle tap, became an instruction, became a blueprint, became the quiet heartbeat of a structure that the world had already rushed to declare impossible. For 13 years, Washington Roebling never set foot on the construction site. He did not stand atop the bridge towers. He did not directly touch steel or stone. But every single day, his dream continued to be built. Through the gentle tapping of one finger, passed through his wife's arm, and then to the team of engineers waiting below. Each instruction was decoded, each decision was carried out, each meter of the bridge completed with patience and absolute belief. When the Brooklyn Bridge was finally finished, it did more than connect 2 pieces of land. It connected generations. It connected belief with time. And it transformed an idea once dismissed as madness into a lasting symbol of America. Today, millions of people cross that bridge without knowing that. Every steel span carries the mark of perseverance, of a spirit that refused to surrender to circumstance, and of a quiet love that endured for 13 years. The Brooklyn Bridge still stands, not only as an architectural achievement, but as a reminder that humanity's greatest legacy does not lie in physical strength, but in a will that never chooses to stop. This story is not just about a bridge, but about how human beings face the limits of their own lives. The first lesson is this: you don't need to have everything in order to keep going. You only need to hold on to one thing: the belief that what you are doing still matters. When Washington Roebling lost almost all control of his body, he did not wait for life to return to normal. He began from where he was, with the only thing he could still control. The second lesson is this: great legacies are rarely built in applause. They are formed in doubt, in loneliness, and in years when no one is watching. If you are walking a path that no one understands and no one supports, that does not mean you are wrong. And finally, success is not about defeating circumstances, but about refusing to let circumstances decide who you are. The Brooklyn Bridge exists today, not only because of steel and stone, but because one man chose not to quit, even when quitting was the easiest choice of all. Some stories are not told to make us feel strong right away, but to remind us that continuing forward, even very slowly, still has value. Washington Roebling did not defeat his circumstances in a single moment. He simply refused to stop. Day after day, with the only thing he was still able to do, he continued laying one brick at a time, for a dream greater than himself. If you are going through a difficult season, this story does not promise that things will become easy. It only says this: quitting is not the only option. Legacies that endure are built from patience, from quiet belief, and from people who do not abandon their journey. If you would like to keep listening to stories like this, follow the channel.